Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one's entitled Larger Planet X Systems Causing Increasingly Devastating Effects. Now, the number and the extent of landslides which are occurring all over the planet seem to be increasing, and the one which has recently occurred in La Paz, Bolivia, was particularly devastating due to the huge area affected. As I showed in article 815 entitled Huge Landslide in Bolivia, Liquefaction Due to Planet X, these events have to be due to Planet X system stellar cores approaching the Earth and causing the Earth's gravitational field, which is generated by the Earth's core, to fluctuate so that the binding energy of the ground on the surface of the Earth decreases on the opposite side of the Earth. This is a gravitational effect, but it affects the binding energy of matter because the gravitational force acts on the microscopic as well as the macroscopic level. In other words, gravity is the force which causes planets to be attracted to a star, and it is also the force which causes matter to hold together as a material. When the gravitational field weakens at the surface, it causes the material at the surface to lose cohesiveness and thus flow like a liquid. And here you can see a screenshot from a video showing the devastating landslides in La Paz, Bolivia. You basically have a river of soil here carrying rubble, and some of this rubble is so huge it looks like parts of buildings. And some seem to be almost intact buildings. So this is huge pieces of rubble. This is a huge landslide. And this is due to the Earth's gravitational energy field weakening in that region, and thus leading to liquefaction of the ground. Because La Paz is the city in the world with the highest elevation, it is further from the center of the Earth and thus more likely to be affected by such an event. And here you can see a photograph which shows you the extent of these slides. You can see the ground here, and it's brown, it's not covered in vegetation, so you can see that a landslide has occurred here. You can also see on the ground that all this has been affected. You can see that part there, you can see this part here, and this seems to be part of it as well. So it's a huge extent, a huge area that was affected by this landslide. And so this was absolutely devastating. And this occurred on April 30th, at least that's when it started. I believe it is still going on. Now, this is an illustration of how the Earth's energy field will fluctuate as the Earth is approached by very large Planet X system stellar cores. And the orange circle here represents the position of the Earth's gravitational field. And I call it energy with gravitational because this is what it's all about. The gravitational interaction is dependent on gravitational energy. So the two concepts are coexist within the idea of a gravitational field. So here it is in its normal centered position on, as you can see here on the left. But on the right, it has moved to the right because there's a stellar core here. And energy tends to flow from a region of high potential to a region of low potential. So stellar cores are energy depleted. So whenever they approach a planet, energy tends to flow in that direction. So the Earth's gravitational field tends to shift in that direction. And that leaves this region here with a lower gravitational field. It's almost like the Earth would tend to flatten out or produce an indentation in order to get closer to where the field now is. So this part of the Earth loses cohesiveness, and especially mountainous areas will tend to have liquefaction occurring, and that will lead to landslides. Now, since there seems to be increasing incidence of landslides all over the world, we can only conclude that increasing numbers of these very large stellar cores which cause it are approaching the Earth, and that there must therefore be an increasing number of Planet X star systems with large central cores inside the solar system. The fact that the severity of these incidents is also increasing then suggests that the size of the central stellar cores is also increasing. And here you can see one of these Planet X systems stellar core systems. The first system goes with the name, but this is a stellar core system because it's made up of many stellar cores. It has a central stellar core, and then it has all these satellite cores which you see here. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these objects around here. And this would be what was once inside a star. It's the core system of a star. The star was destroyed by energy depletion, and the core system was released from inside it. But what we have then coming in is a Planet X star system coming into the solar system to absorb energy. So the huge number of objects around the central core or its core system, and it's the skeleton of a star system which due to energy depletion broke into pieces. And that means that the central star and the planets broke up, and the outer layers became a debris field, and the core became a disconnected system of energy depleted cores. That's what we see here, all stellar cores. So I call these energy depleted cores stellar cores. Now, amongst the cores, there will be a large amount of debris, but some may have been left behind to populate the different asteroid belts. So that's what asteroids are. They are debris left over from these stars and planets breaking up. The larger the star system, the larger the central core is likely to be, as well as its satellite cores. So the satellite cores in the system will also tend to be larger if they belong to a larger star initially. Thus, a larger Planet X star now coming in as a Planet X stellar core system will have a central star that will lead to more severe liquefaction effects, and its satellite cores will cause more severe other additional Planet X effects, such as hurricanes and other severe weather activity, tidal surges and recession, extreme wind and rogue waves, sinkholes, water spouts, tornado gravitational effects, etc. The fact that these effects have steadily increased in severity over the last 10 to 20 years, and that the increasing trend seems to be accelerating, suggests that increasingly larger Planet X star systems have entered the solar system as time went by, and that thus even larger are likely to enter in the future. This is likely to be because the larger star systems were furthest from the Sun when the Planet X star systems were destroyed, and will thus take longer to get here. This would then suggest that the Sun is a younger and thus smaller star at the outer reaches of a globular cluster, and that the other stars were closer to the center of the globular cluster and thus older and larger. And this diagram illustrates how a globular cluster breaks up into smaller and smaller pieces. So you end up with an initial globular cluster core, which then splits up into a smaller central core and these other smaller pieces, which turn into satellite cores, but they will become very large stars, and these will then break up and eject the smaller pieces. And you can see the central core is now smaller here. They are smaller star cores here. These would be like the core of extremely large stars, and then they keep on breaking up, and you end up with smaller and smaller pieces. So the sun, as a small star, would start out from a small star core, and it will be younger because this process takes time, and it will be further out from the center. So the very large stars will tend to be closer to the center of the globular cluster, and the smaller ones further away. And this diagram illustrates what a galaxy is made of. It has the nucleus, so that's where the galactic core system will be. And then the galactic core will eject part of its core system, which will become globular clusters. Globular clusters, and you can see many of these out here, but all the stars that populate a galaxy would have started out as part of a globular cluster. So most of them would end up over here in the plane of the galaxy. So these globular clusters start out as one blob, one huge blob, and then slowly they break up into smaller and smaller pieces and then turn into all these stars. And so because of the huge size of one galaxy, it is likely that all the Planet X planets were part of one empire, which must have communicated with each other, and that they were all in one sector of the galaxy, and thus all belong to the same globular cluster. So here you can see this globular cluster, which starts out as one blob, and in time it splits into individual stars, which is why you can see that it's denser at the center, and it will have a nucleus at the center, just like a galaxy, which will have inside it the globular cluster central core. And that's basically why it's so much brighter in the center. It's much denser, and it will have a nucleus inside there. So in conclusion, the frequency and severity of landslide activity on planet Earth suggests that increasingly larger Planet X stellar core systems are coming into the solar system, because these were further from the sun when the Planet X star systems were destroyed, and would therefore take longer to get here. Larger Planet X stellar core systems will thus continue to come to Earth in increasing numbers and result in increasingly devastating Planet X effects, from landslides to weather phenomena and such things as wind and rogue waves. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.